When you think of Christmas time, what comes to mind? Is it cookies and gingerbread houses, mistletoe and holly, or maybe singing carols and watching sentimental movies about Santa Claus? I, on the other hand, associate it with fear, locking down the house, and tales upon tales about what we should not do on Christmas Eve night. But long before traditions included stockings, eggnog, and ugly sweaters, the Christmas season was considered the perfect time of year to sit around the fire with friends and family. At least that's how it used to be with my family, until we moved here. I live in Nunavut, Canada. We're the closest town to the actual North Pole. So you'd think that would mean our town would have the most Christmas spirit, but really, it's the exact opposite. Although we still have joy and praise for Santa Claus himself, there are 3 rules that we must always follow. Number 1, don't go outside after 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Number 2, don't try to peek if you hear him sneak. And number 3, if you hear the sound of jingle bells, run for your life, scream and yell. Up here, they think of Santa as more of a saint, and we the people are unworthy of seeing him. Earlier this evening, while we were baking cookies to leave out for Santa, my older sister Laura asked me, "Do you know why elves wear those pointy shoes?" I just kind of gave her a look, because I'm at that age where I'm very skeptical that Santa even exists. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe in something or someone that you've never actually seen with your very own eyes before. I'm pretty sure it's really my dad, but I reply, "No, why?" Then she says that elves wear those pointy shoes so that they can poke out the eyes of children who see Santa Claus. So, if you ever get any ideas, remember, no peeking. I have to admit, what she said scared me a little, and it'll probably be seared into my memory for the rest of my life. But it also definitely got me thinking that maybe Santa is real. I mean, she could be lying though. She's always trying to scare me, telling me things that aren't true. Grandma Evelyn is sitting in the living room in front of the fireplace in her rocking chair, and she overhears our conversation. She looks up from the half-completed sweater resting on her lap that she's knitting. "How are the cookies coming along, girls?" Laura opens the oven door and peers inside. "The chocolate chip cookies need a few more minutes." While Laura's checking on the cookies, Grandma motions for me to come over to her. Then she whispers, "Your sister is just messing with you, but there is some truth to what she says. Remember the rules, and as long as you stay in bed all night, you'll be all right, sweetheart. Now go check on the cookies." I walk back into the kitchen and look at the cookies sitting on the cooling rack on the counter, then carefully touch a finger to one of them. "The gingerbread men are ready for decorating, and the sugar cookies are almost done too," I shout. The kitchen counters are covered with cooling racks full of sugar cookies, decorated with red and green frosting and sprinkles, chocolate chip cookies with red and green M&Ms, and of course gingerbread ladies and men. It's so warm in here that the glass window panes are absorbing the heat and creating a moist fog that's blurring the snowy winter wonderland outside. I wipe the condensation from the window and peer out of it. Snow is slowly falling, dancing in the moonlight and covering the neighborhood in a thick blanket of white. When the window fogs back up a moment later, I close the curtain, grab a plate of cookies from the counter, and head into the living room. I sit the plate of gingerbread men with their chocolate buttons and eyes down in front of Grandma. She reaches for one, but a horde of my younger cousins bombard me and snatch the cookies from the plate before she can get any. She just smiles, leans back in her rocking chair, and goes back to her knitting. Grandma doesn't mind. She loves Christmas, but if you ask her, it's all about the children. When the cookies are finished baking, my entire family gathers in the living room around the fireplace. Each person takes their pick from the cookie platter and then grabs either a glass of milk, eggnog, or a mug of hot cocoa. Once everyone gets settled, we watch a movie, and then it's time for the little kids to go to bed. The older kids get to stay up for a little while longer to help the adults lock down the house for the night. We lock all of the shutters and make sure every single window is closed tight. Every door is deadbolted, and the only thing we leave open is the fireplace for Santa. Once we've finished, our parents tell us that there are many other things besides Santa roaming around on this very special night, and they like to play mischievous tricks. This way, only Santa should be able to get in, and we'll leave the fire on. He'll blow it out when he needs to come down the chimney and relight it for us once he leaves to keep us safe. We say goodnight and then head to bed. but I awake sometime during the middle of the night when I have the unbearable urge to take a pee. I lay there staring at the door, debating whether or not I should go because I know that I'm not supposed to get out of bed. But when I glance at the alarm clock and see that it's only midnight, I think to myself, Santa surely hasn't come yet. My heart begins to race as I slide out from beneath the covers, slip my feet into my slippers, and grab my robe. I tiptoe to the door, twist the knob, and crack it open just an inch, and then peek out into the hall. After listening closely for a second to make sure that I don't hear him, I make my final choice to go out there. It's dark, except for the faint glow of the Christmas lights that I can see coming from downstairs. I start to walk down the hallway towards the bathroom and nearly jump out of my skin when I hear a loud thump. I figure that it must be someone making a late-night trip to the kitchen to get a glass of water. Maybe I'm taking this way too seriously. The adults probably just tell us that tale so that they can stay up late and hang out all night while all of us kids are in bed. But when I hear the thump again, I realize that it's not coming from downstairs. It's coming from up above me, and we don't have an attic. So the only other explanation is, no way, it can't be. I thought he wasn't real. And now I hear the sound of heavy footsteps walking across the roof. I can't believe this. Am I really about to see Santa? Then the conversation that Laura and I had earlier tonight begins to play through my mind. I remember what she said about the elves and what they do to children who try to peek at Santa. But then I think about it for a minute. Since when do elves travel with Santa on Christmas Eve? In every movie that I've ever seen, it's usually just the reindeer and Santa out delivering the presents, and then the elves stay back at the North Pole with Mrs. Claus. That right there tells me that Laura made that story up just so that she could try to scare me. I creep down the hallway and then slowly make my way downstairs. When I turn the corner at the bottom of the staircase, I'm astonished at what I see. I find myself looking at a man dressed in a red suit with fluffy white trim around the edges, a long white curly beard, and black boots. He's got a thick black belt with a golden buckle holding up his pants and a pair of small circular gold-rimmed glasses resting on the bridge of his nose. And he's hauling a giant sack over his shoulder. He doesn't see me, so I scurry back around the corner and watch him from a distance. He walks over and places some gifts beneath our tree, and then he makes his way over to the fireplace where the stockings are hanging. He shoves something into each of them before taking one more look around. Then he takes a cookie from the plate we left for him and a swig of milk before he bends down in front of the fireplace, crawls inside, and just vanishes. As I stand there watching in amazement, suddenly I feel a sharp stinging sensation in my left ankle. I look down and catch a glimpse of something green running past the steps, and then it disappears into the living room. I turn to follow it, and that's when I see a small trail of blood flowing from a tiny cut in my ankle. I kneel down to inspect it closer. It looks like I nicked myself on something, but I don't know what in the world it could have been. I head into the kitchen to get a paper towel. I rip one from the roll and wipe the blood from my cut. The house is dead silent besides the quiet hum of the refrigerator. That's why a look of confusion and pure fear spreads across my face when I hear bells, jingle bells, and then a slight whisper.
You peed.
Hearing that sends a cold realization through my body that everything my sister and my family told me was true. I start to tiptoe back upstairs praying that I haven't been seen. My heart is racing. Then ravenous munching noises along with mischievous giggles echo all around me. There are two little elves eating the plate of cookies that Santa left behind. Once they polish those off, they begin to fight over the glass of milk. But as soon as my foot hits the bottom step, a loud creaking sound rings out. They stop yelling at each other and turn toward me. My heart is beating so fast that I think I may faint. A sinister grin spreads across the one elf's face as he leaps down from the table.
You looked.
The other is still up on the table munching on the cookie crumbs.
You seen.
It says as crumbs spew from its mouth.
You peeked.
The two of them say in unison. As the one elf walks closer to me, it puts its nose up in the air and says,
You reek.
as the other elf busts out and giggles. I turn to run, but end up tripping on the bottom step, and just as I'm about to let out a scream, I hit my chin and end up biting my tongue. Blood fills my mouth, and as I attempt to scream again, it spews all over the carpet on the stairs. I can feel the elf climbing up the back of my legs. I shake them violently, trying to get him off of me, but he holds on for dear life, and now he's made it to my back. When I hear the jingle bells again, I know that the other one is making its way over too. I use all of my strength to push myself up, but just as I manage to stand, the elf on my back bites me in my side and I collapse once again. Then the other comes running toward me, his jingle bells ringing the entire time, sounding louder the closer that he gets. It's so loud now that my ears start to ring. I feel a sharp pain in my big toe, and when I glance backward, I see that my Grandma Evelyn's sewing needle is jammed clean through it. I can see both sides of it from each side of my toe. I'm crying so loudly that I don't know how anyone hasn't heard me and come to see what's going on. I hear a bedroom door open from somewhere down the hall upstairs. Then I hear Laura loudly whisper my name. I get up and hobble up the stairs and go running toward her room, but she slams the door in my face. I hear jingle bells. Ashley, I warned you. You looked, didn't you? Please, Laura, help me. There's no helping you now, she tells me through sobs. The elves begin to laugh hysterically. They're so busy laughing at me now, and the fact that my own sister wouldn't even help me. One says,
Smart girl.
then the other giggles and replies,
Smart girl. Nice girl. Nice girl. But you, naughty girl.
one of the elves says, pointing at me. Then the other tells me,
Naughty list.
Don't you open that door, Laura.
I hear my dad's voice shout from his room.
You wasn't supposed to look, Ashley. You wasn't supposed to look.
I race down the hall and hear jingle bells ringing and their sinister giggles as they dart down the hall after me. I bust into my room at the end of the hall and slam the door behind me. With their tiny hands reaching under the door, grabbing at me, I start screaming to my dad. His room is across the hall from mine. Please, help me, Dad!
You weren't supposed to look, Ashley. He's a saint. And you looked. We're not worthy enough to see him.
You looked. You peeped. You saw. You seen.
I back away from the door and frantically search around my dark room for somewhere to hide, but the only place I can find is beneath my bed, and they're sure to find me there. My doorknob begins to slowly turn, and then the door creaks open. The two elves creep inside. The one is carrying another one of Grandma Evelyn's sewing needles, and the other is grinning, and I can see the blood on his sharp little pointy teeth and lips from when he bit me. I continue to back away from them until I have nowhere else to go. As they inch closer, I get ready to leap up onto my bed, but just as I do, one of them grabs me by the leg and begins to climb. I try to push the little creep off, but his tiny hands are like glue. They don't even budge. He climbs higher and higher until we're face to face. I open my mouth to scream, and he sticks the needle inside, stabbing me right in the tongue. My mouth fills with blood once again. Then he pulls it out, and I manage to knock him off of me. I see my dirty clothes hamper sitting next to my bed, and I grab it, flip it over, and trap the two of them inside. I did it! I finally beat you, and I got to see Santa.
Beat two. Not all.
One of them tells me as I hear the sound of dozens of jingle bells marching down the hall. Then hundreds of elves pour into my room, all chanting,
Naughty girl, naughty list. Naughty girl, naughty list. Naughty girl, naughty list. Naughty girl, naughty list.
I let go of the hamper and back up against the window. The elf holding the needle begins to climb and makes his way up to my eyes, pulling it back and aiming for them. I hold my hands out in front of them, trying to block them from the pain that is about to ensue. They've got me cornered now. I know they're about to kill me. They're going to poke my eyes out, and this is the gift my family will find on Christmas morning. Suddenly, I get an idea. Please wait, I beg them. Please listen, I don't want to die. I'm really sorry for what I did, and I know I must pay for it. But why don't you just take me with you instead? The two of them look at each other for a moment.
Naughty girl, naughty list. Not worthy. Take with us. Make worthy. Make worthy. Make worthy. Make nice.
A year later, it's December 24th once again, and I'm in a house eating cookies when I catch a glimpse of someone peeking at something that they're not supposed to see. My friend that I'm with sees it too.
Naughty boy.
I reply.
Yes, yes. Naughty boy. Naughty list.
Don't forget to subscribe for new stories weekly. See you next time on
Nina's Nightmares.
Really? You're supposed to click the like button, not me. Ugh.